Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about animal behavior. It is one of my favorite topics. I think it's one of the coolest, and I've got lots of really cool videos embedded in this one, in this PowerPoint, that I want y'all to watch. Um, Obviously, I'm not going to record a video of a recording, so I'm going to count on you to actually watch these videos. If we were face to face, I click on them and you get to watch them. But since this is online video lecture, I'm going to ask you to do your part and watch these videos. Most of them are very short, less than 10 minutes. Most of them are less than 5 minutes to watch these videos. So I have them kind of embedded throughout. But it's on animal behavior. We'll get started. What is it? It's what an animal does. It could be really simple things like this picture of a cow swatting a fly, swishing its tail to get the fly off of its body. Or it could be, or if you've ever seen, it shake its skin to try and flick a fly off. It could be something super complex, like these orcas that have figured out how to hunt in their pod, how to hunt like a pack of wolves. This poor little seal stranded here on his little piece of ice, trying to stay safe and away from the orca. And it's a really cool video to watch these guys communicate and function as a unit to hunt down the seals. I think it's pretty fascinating. It's a really cool video. So please, this is one of those that I want you to please watch. This video of this complex hunting behavior. It's cool. So what's the history of studying animal behavior? Well, originally it was just to be able to find where the animals are going to be so we can kill them and eat them because we like meat. So it was just a means to an end. We didn't actually formally study animals and their behavior and why they do what they do until about the 1900s. So we are now studying it more and more. Oh, excuse me, guys. For lots of different reasons, anything from agriculture to see if genetics are involved in the behavior. So more recent studies involving animal behavior, where 100 years ago, we really didn't care. It was where are the animals and how can we breed the animals to have more so we can eat them. As far as behavior, we break it up into two categories. There is innate. This is the stuff you are born with, that an animal is born with, that they know how to do. So that behavior could be as simple as this cat knowing how to clean itself, a baby knowing how to suckle. That's an innate behavior. Lots of different behaviors that are innate, automatically bred into us that we know upon birth, no one had to teach us. And there are other behaviors that people, other animals, taught us. They are learned behaviors. And so we have right up here a web link to an article talking about some of the first, excuse me, I wake up, some of the first learned behavior documented in response to these Japanese monkeys. And originally in Japan, the island where these macaques are found, these monkeys, they had watched these monkeys for a long time, and they would take the potatoes, and potatoes grow on the ground. So they'd take the potatoes and they just brush off the dirt. They'd harvest the potato, they brush off the dirt, and they'd eat it. And so another monkey in the group, and I can't remember, I think they named the monkey, but that specific female monkey, she came up with the idea that I'm going to take this dirty potato and I'm going to take it to the water and I'm going to wash that dirt off instead of just brushing it off. And then she would eat her potatoes after she had washed them. Well, the other monkey saw what she was doing, and then they all learned. This behavior was learned by all of them, and then everyone was washing their potatoes, getting them way more clean than if they just brushed it off, so they're eating less dirt. And it is a learned behavior that they saw one of them, their fellow monkeys doing it, and they did it too. Monkey see, monkey do. So some behavior, again, the innate stuff, it can be, some behavior is genetic. You're just born with it. So just the ability to learn is going to be genetic, but it will be a combination of nature and nurture. What is the environment that you are around that may influence your behavior? So it's a combo. It's both nature and nurture that determines an animal's behavior. So I have a picture of a baby, and of course I couldn't just use a random baby. I had to use a picture of my baby. So this is my first one. It's my oldest. I've got 3 kids. I think I may have mentioned this. So this is Matthew and his baby picture. And then I think he was like 7 maybe in this picture here. And now he's grown. But so much has changed since he was born to where he is now. He has a lot of innate behaviors. All babies know how to suckle. That is an innate behavior, so babies can feed themselves, so they can nurse. They know to suckle and swallow the food down. They know to cry. But do babies know how to talk? No, no. They learn that, right? Do babies know how to walk? No. That's another learned behavior that they have to work on and practice. It's not born. Babies aren't born knowing how to walk. They don't even have the tonicity, the muscular structure, the tone to be able to support themselves and walk initially. So these are things that are learned over time. And even when you learn to talk, different people talk differently, right? We all speak different languages, and even within the English language, there are different dialects within that. So I was raised in Mobile, Alabama. I have a bit of an accent. It's not too terrible. It's not too thick, but I definitely probably sound different than my friends that are from New York and New Jersey. They sound different. They have a different accent, a different dialect than I do. So we have behaviors, and within those behaviors, there's changes. As far as nature and nurture, your environment affects your behavior. There are, of course, I have a side fascination with, reading like mysteries and true crime stories and stuff like that. And so you'll hear about the behavior of some terrible person who did a terrible crime, but you can hear about their upbringing and their raising and the environment that these people were raised in and how that influenced possibly, probably their actions later on as they grew up. And some of these people did terrible things. So your environment, whether you were in a happy, nurturing, loving home, or whether your home was not that, can influence your behavior. It does. It influences the chemicals that when your brain is developing and forming, it absolutely can change your brain chemistry, which can affect your behavior. So it is nature and nurture. Humans have differences in behavior, even in the same kind of behavior. We talk about differences in language. The white crown sparrow also has differences in its sounds and the cries that the sparrow makes and its chirps and noises. They have regional differences in their calls. So we see it in humans, but we also see this across the animal spectrum, that it is nature and nurture, and even within the same behavior, you might see differences within the species. All right, what kinds of behavior? All different kinds of behavior we're going to talk about. So the first is instinct, and that is that innate behaviors that we talked about. The cat being able to wash itself, a baby being able to nurse and suckle and get its food. All of that is stuff that it didn't have to learn. Chickens, baby chicks being able to peck the ground and look for seeds and insects and things that it can eat. That's innate. No, nobody had to teach the baby chicken how to peck the ground. They just know. A cuckoo, if anybody's heard of a cuckoo bird, I don't know if everyone knows what a cuckoo does, but you may have heard of cuckoo, somebody's cuckoo like they're crazy, which isn't very nice. But a cuckoo is a parasite in real life. It is called a nest parasite because the mama cuckoo runs around to other birds' nests, other species of birds, and it lays its egg. It's a nest parasite. It lays its egg in that other species' nest, and then it walks away. It's like a deadbeat mom, and she doesn't do anything. She lets another parent raise her bird, her baby. And so the cuckoo, the baby cuckoo, wakes up with this innate ability, and it automatically knows, I got to kick out the competition. And it pushes all the other eggs out of the nest until the cuckoo is the only one in the nest. And mom and dad have been raising these eggs, roosting on them, keeping them warm, incubating them until they've hatched. And the cuckoo hatches out, kicks out all of its siblings, which isn't really its siblings, but it kicks out all the other eggs. And mom and dad don't really know any better, but all they know is that this egg that they've been babysitting and taking care of has hatched. And that's their baby, and they have to take care of this baby. So they are spending day and night trying to make sure that this baby is healthy and fed. And you can look at this picture. I mean, just look at the size of this thing compared to this poor little mama bird. This looks like a warbler, but I'm not 100%. This poor parent trying to take care of this baby bird, and it's not even theirs biologically. So when we talk about biology and being biologically successful, if you have passed on your genes, you're biologically successful. This bird is wasting all of its time and effort and love and attention on a bird that's not theirs genetically. But it's instinct to take care of your child. It's instinct to take care of the baby. So this nest parasitism works for the cuckoo, works for them. A fixed action pattern, an FAP. This is going to be something that once it gets started, it continues to happen until the stimulus is removed. So our example is the gray-lag goose. This gray-lag goose has a thing about its eggs. Its eggs need to stay in the nest. And if it sees a stray egg, we're going to have to continue to get that egg into the nest. And then we're okay again. Then we can stop the behavior. But once we see it and we start it, we have to finish it. We have to complete it. So here's our gray-lag goose. And it spots this egg outside of the nest. Well, it's going to scooch it. We got to get it towards the nest and put it in there. So even if we see this egg here, we see it, it's happening again, somehow the egg is rolled out of the nest and we got to take care of it. Starts to scooch it back. Even if you take away the egg, it's still going to continue this scooching behavior, even if you sneak away the egg. Or even if you take away the egg and you replace it with a ping pong ball, it's still going to do this behavior until it thinks in its mind that I've gotten the thing into the nest and it's safe and secure. So it starts the behavior and it has to finish this behavior once it gets started. So it spies that egg or that fake egg, if you put a golf ball out there, at whatever it is, once it starts sugar, I have to get this egg back into the nest, it's going to keep doing it. An example of a fixed action pattern. Another one is with male sticklebacks. They literally go crazy when they see red. They go into fight mode. They see red, and that's what they do. It triggers them to fight another male because they see that red color and they immediately associate it with the red breast of another male stickleback. And so even if you put fake fish next to it, it sees the red and it wants to go up and fight that thing. It's another fixed action pattern. If y'all have ever had a betta fish, I think every pet store ever, Walmart, everywhere carries little betta fish. And if you've ever had a betta fish in front of another betta fish, or even if you had a pet betta fish and you put a mirror in front of your betta fish, have you noticed that it does the same thing? That betta fish is going to bow up. It's going to get big and bad. All of its fins are going to spread out and it's going to get all big and try and attack the other betta fish. It's a fixed action pattern. You see it, start it, and it's going to try and bite that thing until it goes away. Habituation is another type of behavior, and that is where the animals are going to ignore things that don't, it perceives that it doesn't matter to them. It's meaningless or irrelevant. So, the example are squirrels. Squirrels can very much be habituated to people, to humans. If you are walking down the street on a popular area. Maybe you're going to a city park or something, or maybe you're walking through campus. Maybe not so much Carterville campus, but maybe Marietta's campus or Rome's campus. There are very much habituated squirrels there. They will wait and wait until you are literally stepping on them before they will move away. Like it must be life or death. And then it's, oh, I should probably move. They're habituated. If you have seen those little sparrows, the house sparrows that are always in parking lots. I always find them in the grocery store parking lot or the Walmart parking lot looking for french fries or whatever, some sort of stuff that people have dropped out of the car. They will sit and wait until you're basically on top of them, about to run them over before they move. They are habituated. Same thing with other wildlife. I like to hike a lot. And one of the things that you should do when you live in bear territory is to make sure that you put your food away. You need to put it in a bag, anything that smells, your food, your garbage, anything that you got that smells. And you need to put it in a bag or a bear-proof container, and you hang that bag up in the tree. And there's a few different styles to do that, but you hang it up because you don't want your bear in that area to associate people and food. You don't want the bears, the wild bears, to be habituated to people and not be afraid of people and associate people with food. That is bad. And a fed bear is a dead bear is very much true. So we don't want our wildlife habituated to people. It's not a good thing in general for wildlife to be habituated to humans. Another behavior that wildlife can have with humans or maybe even other animals, specifically for birds in this example, and these little geese, we have these cutie patootie little geese. And so certain birds, when they hatch, they are going to imprint on the first thing they see in the first couple of hours of hatching. And in this case, these little baby geese, these goslings, hatched out, and this man was there taking care of them, and that was mom immediately. It didn't matter if they were presented with another adult goose. He's mom. He's the one in charge of us, and we're gonna follow him around until we finally grow up and mature. But he will always be mom. The chemicals in the brain have set at that point that they are imprinted that that is mom for this situation. So imprinting is where they are exposed to whatever. That could be a human. Hopefully it is the proper parent. Um, but if it was a human in this case, and afterwards they got exposed to the right mother, their actual mother, and they refused to acknowledge that that was mother because they had already imprinted on the human instead. Salmon also imprint. They're not imprinting on an organism though, they're imprinting the chemical surroundings of their home, because salmon are going to be born in freshwater streams, and they will imprint that chemical signature of the stream. So they're like tasting, bringing in the water, and committing that to memory. And then they will leave, they will go downstream, go out to the ocean, live their lives, and then come back. Salmon, we talked about, have this one big event where they all come and they mate at the same time and pass on their genes, and then that's it. So when that event happens, they leave the ocean, come back to the exact stream that they have imprinted in their minds where they were born. They swim upstream, hopefully that they can get there without the water being too low, or dams are in the way, or some sort of thing in the way. But they imprint and go back to where they originated from, and that's where they're going to continue the cycle, have their reproductive event, spread their genes on, and then pass away. Conditioning. There's two types of conditioning. There's going to be classical, which is Pavlov's, and operant conditioning. With classical conditioning and Pavlov's dog, most of us have already heard about Pavlov's dog, but Pavlov used to have his dog, he would feed the dog, and then he started to associate one thing with another thing, one stimulus with another thing. So instead of just feeding the dog, then he would start to ring a bell every time that dog saw the food. So he saw the food and he rang the bell, saw the food, rang the bell, saw the food, rang the bell. So now when we ring the bell, we're already associating the bell with food. Bell means food. We ring the bell, it means food. And food is going to make the dog start to salivate in preparation for the food. This is Pavlov's dog. We've associated one behavior with something else. And so if you are fans of The Office, we can see that happening with Dwight in this YouTube clip. It's very short, using Pavlovian's classical conditioning, associating one stimulus with something. Then there is operant conditioning. With operant conditioning, it is the bait and switch. It is the treat or the switch. Literally, operant conditioning is, the example is Skinner's rats, and Skinner tested his rats, and some rats had a series of levers. One lever would be great and you got a treat, and another lever would be a shock. Electrical current would run through the bars underneath the rat's cage and electrocute them. So it didn't take long before these things were conditioned to associate the lever with the food is good and the lever associated with the pain and the electrocution is bad, and all they did was go towards the lever with the food. So with operant conditioning, it's going to be a punishment or a reward kind of system with operant conditioning. We can use observational learning too. Here we've got these guys getting a reward, their treat with their fish in these coolers here, rewarding this behavior for these dolphins. Observational learning, where we see one animal do things and the other animals do it. We already mentioned this with the Japanese monkeys, where the female went to wash her potato in the water and then everyone else in the troop did it too. Same thing here with English tits. I want to say we talked about this horrible name for these birds found in the UK. And so way back in the day, way before I was born, milk would come in these bottles, right? These glass bottles, and the literal milkman would come and he'd deliver your fresh milk every day. And you'd set out your old bottles and we'd swap them out and recycle them. So the milk would come and they'd have caps on them. Well, the English tits learned that they could peel the taps off of those and get to the milk inside and drink the cream. And so one bird figured it out, and then eventually all the birds locally figured it out that we can pop the tops off these things and get in there. So that's one more observational learning behavior. Ooh, excuse me. Reasoning. Using that brain up there. How can you figure out, problem solve a situation that you have no experience in before? So how can you puzzle out this thing? And an example here in this picture, we've got a chimpanzee and really wants the bananas that are hanging out up top here. And we have a set of boxes. How can this chimp get the treat that it wants? Well, eventually it figures it out, it puzzles it out, it reasons it out that if we stack the boxes, we can get closer to the bananas, and now we got our reward up there. Here is a great video. I really like this video. It's a couple minutes long, but you can watch a crow. Crows are wicked smart. They are able to calculate, how fast your car is coming and how long they have that they can sit here and eat this dead roadkill. on the road before your car gets there and smushes them. They're doing the math in their head and they're already calculating this out. They are excellent problem solvers. There's lots of stories about crows sneaking in and taking people's things and then going off and hoarding it somewhere. But watch this video. It's super cool watching them puzzle out how they can get the treats, how they can get the dog food out of the bowl, out of this bottle, what they can do. And it's cool. Watch what they can do. They're super smart. I really like this one with the crow solving the puzzles. It's neat to watch. All right, so what about their specific movements, their activity level, their movements? What about these things? So with animal movements and activity levels is kinesis. And the example for kinesis are sow bugs. I call them roly-polies. I was raised to call them roly-polies. Some call them pill bugs or sow bugs. But the roly-polies, when they're in different environments, they behave differently. When they're in dry areas, they speed up their activity. When they're in moist areas, they slow down. So the thought is that they speed up their activity so they can get out of the dry area and back into the moist area that's going to have the broken down leaves and detritus that they like to eat on. That's kinesis, their activity rate changing depending on environmental stimulus. Taxis is movement towards or away something. If you are moving towards something, like I am going towards the light, it's positive taxis. If I am moving away from something, like I have 2 rescue dogs, and sometimes, honestly, they stink. They will eat something bad and stink up my room, and I will want to move away from their stinky tubes. So that would be negative taxis. So taxis, you could either be positive or negative taxis. What are you going towards or away from? Is it light? Is it chemicals? What is it? If it is chemicals, it's a type of taxis called chemotaxis. So we can see here with this super cool great white coming out of the water because it has followed the chemical trail, the chemotaxis, positive chemotaxis towards the chum and the source of the food, whatever this chunk of meat is here that it's going after. So this is chemotaxis. This is positive chemotaxis following the chemical trail. Here is positive. Moths are attracted to light in the evening. You leave a porch light on, you're gonna get moths. You're gonna get those beetles. Those are attracted to the light, so it's photo, and it's a positive going towards it. So positive phototaxis going towards the light. Or maybe it's galvanotaxis, and you are attracted to electrical stimuli. Some things are attracted to electrical stimuli, other things want to get away from the electrical stimuli. So it just depends on if it's positive or negative. Oh, excuse me. I cannot stop yawning. And is it, what kind of stimulus is it? Is it chemicals? Is it light? Is it electrical forces, magnetic forces? What is it? It affects movement, and that is taxis. Other types of long haul movements, migration, when you are moving seasonally. It's wintertime, you know, and all of us know, even from children, that birds are going to, when it gets cold, birds are going to migrate from the north to the south. And seasonal migration happens for better feeding grounds, better breeding grounds, depends on the season. So you will see birds migrate. Monarch butterflies are migrating. They will start migrating, heading down south towards Mexico or southern Florida, starting next month, starting in September. You will see the butterflies starting to migrate down. Fish will also migrate. Some fish migrate very long distances, like the salmon that we talked about that leaves the freshwater, goes out in the ocean, and then comes back to the freshwater. Other fish don't migrate very far, maybe like a quarter of a mile, because they found better feeding in one area, better breeding in a different area. Whatever the cause for the migration, lots of different animals do migrate seasonally. communication, um, almost everything. It's a property of life that you need to be able to assess your environment and be able to do something about that. So there's all different types of communication. There's chemical, visual, auditory, and tactile that we're going to talk about in regards to animals. And so chemical stimulation could be pheromones. Oh, excuse me. So with the releaser ones, they're going to trigger behavior in other organisms. And then there are primer ones that may cause physiological changes in other organisms. So moths may release pheromones to attract mates. It is said that people do the same thing because some people will be subconsciously attracted to the smell of their partner and they will be repulsed by the smell of somebody else. If you have ever had ants, experience the joy that is ants being attracted to something. Maybe it's your garbage can or I don't know, something in your house even. And you think, oh, I'm going to wipe the area clean. I'm just going to take, whatever the food is. And if I move the food, then the ants won't come if I get rid of it. But that's not true because the ants leave pheromones behind, which is basically like a blueprint map saying, go this way, here's the food. And even if you remove the food, the ants are still going to come for a little while because they're still going to follow the path, assuming that the food is there because the pheromones are telling them that the food is there. So unless you take some cleaner and clean the pathway too, they're still going to come, at least for a little while, until those pheromones wear away and look for the food because their buddies told them chemically that the food is there. Visual. If you have a dog or if you have even just, experienced being around a dog because maybe you don't like dogs. And if you saw a dog with teeth showing, it's got teeth showing, its ears are back, its hair is standing on end, it's got its hackles raised like this, its nose is wrinkled up, its teeth are showing, it's got big old dilated pupils. That is a whole bunch of visual cues for you. You don't even have to hear the growl. You can see those visual cues, and if you know what you're looking for, that is an immediate, I'm not going to get near that dog. That dog is stressed. That dog is aggravated. It may be due to stress. It may be due because it's scared. But those are all visual cues for you to tune in. And don't go walking over there going, hey, puppy, puppy, puppy. That dog is telling you visually, I'm mad. Go, stay away from me. Don't get near me. All of those things are visual cues for you. A cat. Cats. Some cats are more communicative than others. I have 2 rescues now that we got from Cherokee Animal Shelter when they were kittens. Before that, we had 2 rescues from my master's project was on feral cats. And so one of the feral cats that we trapped wasn't feral. And so we kept him. He was an adult male. And then another feral cat that we had trapped had babies in the trap that night. And so she didn't, when we released her, she didn't come back and get one of them. And so we bottle raised her from 2 days old. So we had 2 cats before that. And before that, we had cats when I was in high school. Some cats are more chill than others. So the cat in high school, she wouldn't really do a whole lot of communication, but what she did do would be the big pupils, the big dilated pupils, and sometimes her ears would go back. And her giveaway was if she did all 3. If she did dilated pupils, ears back, and just the tip of her tail would flick. That was all you got to know that that cat was mad at you. And if you got near her, she's going to take a chunk out of you. So growing up, that cat's name was Boots, by the way. Boots didn't give you a whole lot of visual cues. It was just a few dilated pupils. Maybe the ears are back and maybe the tail twitches. And if you got anywhere near Boots, she, in that kind of mood, she's going to just gonna get you. Just gonna get you. Other cats will give you the whole 9 yards. They'll give you the eyes, the ears, the tail is twitching, they're crouched down, and they will hiss at you and growl at you and add the auditory communication too. But even just being able to see dilated pupils in your fight or flight mode and the ears back, you can tell that an animal is stressed. Again, I like to hike, and some of the cues for bears, because not everybody knows when a bear is just chilling or when a bear is scared or aggressive and may charge. Hackles are one of those. Hair stands up on a bear too, just like it does on a dog. And a bear may chuff and pop its jaw and do these kind of weird behaviors. That's another sign of stress or aggression. And sometimes they'll paw at the ground, and that's another sign that they're scared. So there's a whole bunch of visual cues from lots of animals, but you need to know what to look for. You need to know what those mean. If you were walking past a horse and you can see that its eye all of a sudden gets really, really big and those ears go back, it's kind of checking you out, and it's kind of worried about you. So different animals will give you different cues that you, if you know what to pick up on, can read and determine what their behavior is. Are they in a good mood, a bad mood? Are they scared? Are they happy? It just depends. So you gotta look and see. What if they're in love and they're trying to find the love of their life, or maybe just the love for the night? Courtship displays are going to be more visual cues. So I can't remember where I found this video. I think it was like BuzzFeed or something. But it's got the blue-footed booby dance, and it's so cute how they're trying to woo their lady love. So it's a cute video to watch on what they do to try and win over the opposite sex. Another really cool video is this quick clip on birds of paradise, which are spectacular birds. The males are so cool looking. And you can see what their courtship display is for them trying to find their lady love. There are all sorts of auditory cues. I was telling you about the cat hissing and growling, and if a dog is growling, that's an auditory cue for you. Elephants have calls. Elephants can make calls in the sound ranges that we can hear, and they also can make calls in sound ranges that are below frequencies that our ears can pick up. We won't hear it, but they can hear it. So I've got some elephant call videos talking about how they can hear these low frequencies at far distances. So it's really cool videos. They're two different ones discussing elephant calls, and hearing calls at a distance and how they hear them at a distance. So they're pretty neat videos to watch. If you have never heard of a whale song, clearly you have not watched Finding Nemo, but I've got some whale songs recorded here. I think it's kind of just fascinating to listen to and have it in the background. But it's really neat. It's really neat. And then, of course, we can't talk about making sound and communicating if we're not going to talk about echolocation and how bats use that sound as sonar to get around, and to be able to get around, to be able to find their prey. They will shoot out blasts of these high-pitched, high-frequency sounds. And then when those sound waves bounce off an object and come back, they know, depending on how fast those sound waves come back, where the object is, and they can use that to find their way when they're flying around. They can use that to find their prey. Bats eat bugs, lots of bugs, so many mosquitoes. Bats are great mosquito eaters and moth eaters. And so some moths have actually evolved to where when that bat is using its echolocation and the sound waves ping off the moth immediately drops down to try and get out of the bat's way because it knows a bat is coming through. So bats are using sound waves, auditory communication, to figure out their surroundings in 3D using sound waves. So pretty cool short video about echolocation. Tactile touching is used by all sorts of animals. We see the waggle dance, where a bee will come in and communicate what's going on in honeybees with this waggle dance. It tells other bees, excuse me, where the food's at. If you fly out of the nest right now, the food is going to be this way. It's communicating that information via dance. Classic pictures of apes, of chimpanzees, of gorillas. We've seen all of these guys using tactile, using touch to communicate. This is, picking things out of each other's fur, possibly parasites, but it's a way to bond. And people do it too. If you've ever seen stories about bonding with newborn babies, preemies, and they'll take the preemie and they will have skin to skin contact with mom. That tactile touch is a way to bond and communicate even without words. Just being able to communicate with tactile touch is powerful. Foraging behavior. This works for prey and for predators. So it's hard to make out at a glance. If you just glance at this herd of zebras right here, and we got a video of a herd of zebras if you want to click on the picture. If you just glance at them, those stripes are designed so it's hard to pick out an individual in the herd. That's what they have evolved for, and it has made them successful to have the stripes because it's harder for the lion to pick out one thing when they all have these weird stripes and they all kind of blend together in the herd. So the herd is helping them be successful and not be picked out when they group together. Same for these bait balls. It's the same kind of thing. It's hard for the shark or the barracuda or whatever the predator is that wants to come along and eat this fish when they can't decide, do I want this one or this one or this one? I don't know which one I'm going to pick. And that gives the fish, the zebra, the whatever, time to get away. And the predator just doesn't know who to fixate on. As far as predators and prey, here we have this big old moose, which is a whole lot of muscle. It's a big, big animal. If you've never seen one in person, they're big. And so a moose can take on an individual wolf. If a solo wolf came along, that wolf he's not afraid. He can stomp that one solo wolf down, and that wolf runs a huge chance of being injured if it tried to go mano-a-mano with the moose. But if the wolf acts as a pack, then they distribute that danger amongst all of the pack members. And if they're all coming at the moose at once, then the chance of injury is much, much less than it would be if it was a solo wolf acting on its own, the lone wolf trying to hunt down the moose. The moose would just laugh at that guy and beat the crap out of him. But the pack is a different story, and a pack could take down a moose, especially if it was a moose that was sick. On a full-grown moose, it could definitely take out a baby moose for sure. So you're better acting as a group in pack behavior with a wolf than you are as a lone wolf. Biological rhythms are another type of behavior. We have a, oh my gosh, clearly writers off, our circadian rhythm. Your body knows what time it is, relatively speaking. It is nighttime, it is time to go to bed. It's daytime, it's time to be up and active. The body knows, it's a circadian rhythm. So we have a video here from Crash Course talking about circadian rhythms and how that's imprinted in us, that we can keep track of when it's daytime, when it's nighttime. And different animals have different activities depending on the time of day. If you're nocturnal, you come out at night. If you're diurnal, you come out during the day. If you're crepuscular, you like it at dawn and dusk. In the late afternoon and early mornings, you're crepuscular. That's when you're the most active. It's going to be late afternoons or dawn and dusk, crepuscular. Maybe your cycle is all nocturnal and you depend on the lunar cycles. You are dependent on the tides that pull the moon that pulls the tides, especially if you were a grunion fish. So we've got a video describing the grunion fish. They depend on the high tides. And so they will come along at high tide. They will get together and have this giant adult party where the females will come up on shore in the high tides. They will dig down into the sand, lay their eggs, and all the males will surround the females and fertilize the eggs in place. And then as the tide washes out, then the adults will go back out. And 2 weeks later, when a second high tide happens with the cycle, high tide happens again, and now those eggs are ready to hatch. High tide comes along, the eggs hatch, and the little babies, the fry, will go out to sea. So they are dependent on the lunar cycles, what's going on with the moon and the tides. As far as sexual selection, this was, I want to say like 200 years ago. It was just hilarious that it didn't cross the minds that this happened, that animals chose their partners, that male animals would choose the females, or female animals would choose the males, because 200 years ago, that's not how it happened with women traditionally in many countries. So this wasn't studied again until recently. Again, we didn't study animal behavior until the 1900s. So polygamy is going to be where there is one male, and here we've got the bull, and he's got his harem of ladies, whether this is seals or elk or deer, where we've got the one male, and he's the biggest, baddest male, and he has fought for the right to have his harem of females, and he will defend his females against any other on-takers that want to battle him for his ladies. That's polygamy, one male and lots of females. There is also polyandry, which is going to be the opposite. That's where there's going to be lots of males and the one female. And so you might see this with some animals, starfish, seahorses do this, where the male will raise the female's babies. Honeybees are going to have a queen bee, and then all the worker bees are the drones and their males. We have more video here talking about different types of birds, and some birds are polygamous and some birds are polyandrous. Here is our seahorses. Monogamy. Does it happen? We have ideas that monogamy is going to be mating with one partner, and sometimes that mating with one partner will last a lifetime, the idealistic relationship. And then other times, monogamy is just for the season. It's just for the season, and sometimes it's supposed to be for life. Oftentimes, it doesn't happen. What we thought was mating for life isn't really mating for life. So there's a video about this. Some animals truly do mate for life, but it's very, very rare. So you can watch this video talking about even animals that we thought mated for life. Now that we have genetic tests, we can show that they're still cheaters, and it's cheaters across the board. It's not just male cheaters, it's female cheaters. And it mentions the pros and cons of why you would want to be a cheater. And are humans cheaters? Is that why we are the way we are, biologically speaking? Because of that. So it's an interesting video talking about monogamy and different types of animals. So that is animal behavior. Again, I do hope you watch these videos embedded in the PowerPoint. I know it's a online lecture and I can't make you watch the videos, but I think they are cool and they reinforce the topics, and I like them. I enjoy them, again, because Zoe is one of my favorite classes and I like watching videos about animals. So if you have questions, let me know. You can send me an email. You can drop in on any of the office hours. And I will see y'all every week for lab. So just let me know there if you remember your question then. But I'm always open for email during office hours if you want to set an appointment. Just let me know.